Hey, good morning. I'm Crystal Roy with the Safari Group, and I want to talk to you today about closing costs. When buyers are making a purchase, one of the important parts of their overall expenses is what's included in your closing costs. So I have previous closing disclosure here. I taped it together because I took off the personal information. I just wanted to go over, for example, a sales price here is about $260,000. I wanted to go over what the different closing costs are. So you're going to have some type of earnest money deposit or also a due diligence fee. That could be $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. Depends on the market, depends on the sales price of the house and the negotiation of the parties. But one of the biggest numbers you're going to find on your closing disclosure is actually going to be the mortgage insurance premium that's paid up front. And I want you to keep this and submit this to your CPA or your tax preparer when it becomes tax time, because if any parts of this are deductible for you, I want you to get the full effect and benefit. So this particular disclosure has several different categories. So it's the financial consideration of the sales price and any deposits that you've made. Also, the loan charges, the prepaid items, the initial escrow payment at closing, title charges, recording charges or recording fees, any payoffs if needed. That's mostly for the seller, but there could be some payoffs required by a buyer before closing, such as credit card amounts and different things. And then you got miscellaneous or other debits, such as realtor fees, things like that. Okay, so let's look at what's happening with the buyer side. So loan charges in this particular incident case was about a little over 4% of the loan amount. So that would be $1,039.31 for this purchase price of $262,000. There's an admin fee charged by the lender of $895. And there's an appraisal fee that's paid during the process, which in this case was $575. And then the credit report was $75, a flood certification fee of $850, and the mortgage insurance premium paid up front was $4,424.53, and then a tax service fee of $75. Then we have prepaids. So there are some taxes. For example, when you're closing on the purchase of a property, let's say you closed June 30th. All the taxes that were owed on that property from January 1 to June 30th are paid by the seller. And then you are responsible as the buyer to pay for July 1st to the end of the year, and that's going to be paid at closing. So you're going to complete your tax payment on the property for your current year at closing. So in this case, the dates were a little different, but the property taxes for the South Carolina primary residence purchase was $201.23. That was from January to December of that year. That was the seller tax period. And then from December to January, which was a short period for the borrower. So that's $201 was basically for 1 month. Homeowner's insurance premium is also paid up front the 1 year. So once you have your insurance premium paid up front, you've got full coverage. And that's, in this case, $847.27. You've got prepaid interest, which is paid on the sale purchase from the day of closing to the end of the roll to the end of the month. So that's $48.46 because that prepaid interest was for a single day from November 30th to December 1st. Now, there's some initial escrow payments at closing. So you're going to hear the repeat of some of these categories, because not only do you pay your year of your insurance premium up front to cover anything, you're going to start putting into an account some portions of what needs to be paid for the next year. So over the course of the next year, you're going to pay 1/12 of your homeowner's insurance every month. That goes into escrow. And then you're going to pay 1/12 of your property taxes that goes into escrow. So at the end of the year, you'll have that full amount to send to the insurance property, the insurance, property insurance company, or the tax for your tax bill. Now, they also do some upfront. So for homeowners insurance, this one in particular took 3 months, and that's what we normally see. So instead of escrowing just 1 month at closing, they'll do 3 months, because it could be that the insurance premium will go up, so they want to always make sure they have enough in your account. And then for property taxes, they've collected 2 months, so that will be a total of $394.88. Now, because there are certain percentages which they can't go over based on some estimates up front from the lender, there's actually an aggregate adjustment of $70.62, which is deducted from that. Now, under the title charges, we have title's owner insurance of $242.44, and it tells what type of coverage. It's full coverage for the full amount of the purchase price of the house. That's for the owner. And then there's lender's title insurance of $661.80, and that covers a little bit less because it's to cover the remaining balance. Now, these two title insurance premiums are very, very important, and especially in North and South Carolina, and then in general, because this assures and ensures that you own your property free and clear, that no one can come and make claim to that property because the title has been searched. And also, let's say, for example, something extreme happens. In this case, I became aware of a house in Charlotte that was going into foreclosure. I became interested in it. I was going to purchase it myself for, rental. And the closing attorney I worked with actually knew the history of this property. So he said, Crystal, you don't want that house, because this house literally sits on the water main for Charlotte. So although the land had been purchased, it had been built on, the certificate of occupancy had been issued, and the investor who purchased and built this property had put renters in there. At some point, it was discovered what had happened, and the certificate of occupancy was revoked. So literally no one could even live there. Okay. Because there was no way to access that water main under this house for repair if needed. Now, I felt like a creative solution was, because of the size of the lot, was to pick up the house and move it to another part of the lot, and still have your easements. It happened to be, I believe, a corner lot, if I remember correctly. It's been a couple of years. That you just pick up the house and move it. Okay. However, it was a total loss in terms of the landlord, the owner, the investor, because they failed to get title insurance. So there was no recourse, no recovery of $200,000 for them after all of this process of buying the land, getting it approved for building from the city, building the property, through all the phases of inspections of the building inspection for, new construction, and the owner's certificate of occupancy being issued. After all of this, it was discovered what was running underneath this house, and they just had a total loss, except, of course, they could move the house off the lot. And when you move a house, you also have to have a permit. I didn't follow up with what happened, the end game with this, but because they felt like with a cash purchase, they didn't need title insurance because there was no loan. When this huge problem was discovered, they didn't have any insurance to cover it, so they lost all of that money. There are a couple of other reasons that we should be thinking of title insurance, especially in our area, because we do have several Indian tribes, Native American tribes who previously lived on the land here, and there have been through the decades different awards of, from the United States government to the Native American tribes, and sometimes you can't keep your own property because the Native Americans have been able to go back and say, no, this is our property. So if you have title insurance, however, it's just like any other insurance, your auto insurance, your homeowner's insurance, you are paying someone else to carry that liability for you in case of an incident, right? If you have an incident with your house and you have homeowner's insurance, you may have a deductible, but then it's covered. And then for your automobile, you're paying someone else for that insurance to take that liability, so you're paying someone to offset your costs. And then with title insurance, you're paying a title company, number one, who did the research that said no one else going back through the chain of title as far back as we can go can make a claim to this property. But then you put that title insurance policy in place so that title company actually will bear the responsibility if there were a mistake, such as I just mentioned with this water main. Okay, so super important. And then we have some email, fax, copy fees. That's $50. And then we have some more title charges of an insured closing letter, overnight courier fee, title abstract fee, title insurance binder, wire fees, and attorney fees. So those are running $35, $40, $216.25, $150, $20, and $450 is the attorney fee. Now we have recording fees. So once all of this paperwork is completed, it must be recorded to show that you are now the rightful owner. So what this company charged was $25 for that. And then again, payoffs. So sometimes, for example, the debt to income ratio that I might be having with a buyer's scenario is, in order for them to qualify for the loan, they have to get their debt down in order to qualify. So there may be, like, I'm just going to use a round number, like $5,000 on a credit card that's owed. They can qualify for that loan as long as that debt is satisfied or paid off. And often the lender will require them to pay that off at closing. So you may see payoffs. You may have an amount debited to the borrower that's owed and paid at closing for those types of things. Some other categories I see here are sometimes medical fees and services. There could be something associated with back taxes, different things like that. Anything that's going to put the debt to income ratio too high, the lender may require that to be paid at closing for you to move forward free and clear. So this is the buyer's side closing disclosure statement and the many parts that go into that. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those. If you would like an estimate for what your closing costs might be, please let me know, and we'll go from there. Have a great day, everybody, and it's Crystal Roy with the Safari Group. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.